What's going on, everybody? Jolt here from TheTokenMinorities, and I am back with the semifinals of the GBA Season 8, where your Kansas City Jirachiefs are taking on Emvee and his San Diego Chimchargers in what promises to be a very exciting game. We played once already this season. Fortunately, we were able to come out on top in that first matchup, but that doesn't make this matchup any easier in the playoffs. In fact, I would argue that it makes it a lot harder, as I pretty much showed a lot of my top strategies there in that first matchup, really wanting to get that win against Emvee early in the season, so I had to really readjust my game plan for this particular game. If you want to see what that game plan is, make sure to go check out the team builder, which will be linked down in the description below, down there on the first line. Just go click that and check out all the sets that I am bringing this week. But just to very briefly summarize what that game plan is for you, the idea is to try to win this game with a Choice Scarf Gardevoir. As you can see from the mons that he brought, just looking across his roster, he has limited fairy resists on his team. He has Empoleon, Amoonguss, and Magmortar, and potentially a Savali form. That is pretty limited, especially when I feel Amoonguss doesn't have the best matchup against my team. So I think the Gardevoir is a mon I can win with, and the team that I'm bringing to support that, it includes a Assault Vest Seismitoad, which has Earthquake, Scald, Knockoff, and Low Kick. Very solid overall against this team. Again, opted to not run Stealth Rock on Seismitoad because I feel like every time Seismitoad is in the game, I want to be clicking an attack instead of going for Stealth Rock, especially when I have another rocker that is just as good in this matchup. Then I have a Celesteela, which is mixed defensive, built to take on both Mega Pinsir and Kyurem, neither of which he actually brought to this game, so that really frees up Celesteela in terms of what I can do with it here in this particular game, as it really doesn't look too great against any of the specific mons that he brought, so I'll probably use it as like a pivot around Gligar, pivot around Savali, for example. Then I have Gardevoir, which, like I already mentioned, is Choice Scarf with a fair amount of defense investment as well, specifically for +2 Mega Pinsir, but in this case it might also be useful for Magmortar. It might be useful to take a hit from Hoopa if absolutely needed. I believe I have enough to take like a Scarf Hyperspace Fury if I need to. And yeah, take hits from Savali, it can take hits from Tapu Koko, it can take hits from a lot of things, and it can drill him by spamming Moonblast and or Psyshock in this game. Then I have the Aerodactyl, which is a little bit fatter, more geared toward dealing with Mega Pinsir. I really thought he'd bring Mega Pinsir in this matchup, not gonna lie, but no, he opted not to bring it this time around. That's fine. I'm running Stealth Rock, Taunt, and Edge Quake, or Rock Slide Earthquake specifically. So as you can see from looking at his team, that is very good against him. Gligar can switch in fine, but I can always taunt that. I can get up rocks on it, so I don't really care too much if he decides to use Gligar as his switch into Aerodactyl. Then I have my Breloom, which is built as for two purposes. One being to break down the Regenerator Core that he opted not to bring. The other being just for general priority against his team, as Mach Punch is really good against potential setup sweepers. And as you can see, stuff like the Hoopa Unbound is not going to appreciate the Mach Punch, and if he decides to bring that Trick Room set again this time around, that would really help in terms of dealing with that, especially because I'm actually carrying a minus speed nature to make sure I outspeed Hoopa under Trick Room, and if he happens to be like Choice Scarf Hoopa, Mach Punch is really good for that as well. I also have enough bulk to take a Dazzling Gleam from a max special attack Tapu Koko after 2 rounds of Stealth Rock damage, just in case I need that in the late game. You never really know. Then I'm packing Natural Gift Ice on that Breloom, which would help me against the Gligar in this scenario. Also could have been nice against the Amoonguss. And now I have finally the Hydreigon, which is built to be a pseudo check to the Raichu, having the Chople Berry, as Raichu would only be able to run the Focus Blast to hit this super effectively unless it ran a Hidden Power. Also nice to pseudo check the Hoopa, which could very well carry fighting coverage to deal with either of my potential dark types, and it's also nice as a check/counter to the Magmortar as needed. So that is the team for this week. My man Emvee decided to bring the Empoleon, the Gligar, the Tapu Koko, the Savali, Magmortar, and the Hoopa, which is a crazy team. That's not really what I was expecting. I definitely expected to, at the very least, see the Tapu Koko Mega Pinsir in this matchup, as I felt like, even Kyurem, I felt like Kyurem was really good against the mons that I brought in our first matchup, and I'm bringing the same 6 mons here as well, so I really thought he would probably try to bring that, and I was kind of scared of it too if he did bring it, but fortunately he opted not to, and instead brought a lot of his low-tier threats with his Empoleon, Tapu Koko, and his Hoopa, so this is definitely going to be an interesting game. Make sure to go check out Emvee's side of the match as well, after you watch this one, of course. It's always good to see both perspectives on these battles, and also wanted to thank Under the Radar for once again recording my game for me, and to, I believe, the Common Dude who was able to gen my team for me as well this week. So with all that said, we can go ahead and jump right on into this match, and let's see which of us will advance to the finals to face the winner of Chimpact and Gator. As Emvee issues the challenge, and he is going to lead off with his Empoleon, which is the lead I expected. I expect him to either lead with this or with Tapu Koko, as I decide to lead off with my Seismitoad. Now, Seismitoad is built to be able to most likely 1v1 this Empoleon in a lead matchup, especially if he wants to use a turn going for Stealth Rock. Emvee doesn't want to lose any health on his Empoleon early in the game, which is smart on his end. He decides to go straight into his Silvally, which reveals to eventually be actually Dragon-type Silvally. So that's an interesting bring. That's almost definitely built to be his response to my potential Arcanine bring, since he opted to not bring the Slowbro. That makes a lot of sense here, as I'm going to pull the pretty safe switch into my Aerodactyl, just in case he wants to go for like a grass move. I believe this thing gets grass. Not that I might be wrong, but at the very least it would have hidden power grass. I didn't want to let Seismitoad take unnecessary damage, and Aerodactyl just seemed like overall pretty safe switch, and since I do have a lot of bulk on this set no matter what, I'd be able to take any hit he goes for essentially. He's going to go straight into his Gligar as after the party shot, which is fair enough. I'm just going to taunt this. I don't want this thing to get up Stealth Rock against me, just in case the Empoleon is not actually carrying the Stealth Rock here in this particular game, as he decides to just go for the knockoff, revealing I think he has a little bit of attack investment as well, so I do need to keep that in mind throughout the course of the game, as I am going to just set up my Stealth Rock here, knowing that he's taunted, he can't defog these away. And is going to take this as his opportunity to just go straight for the U-turn, which is fair enough. My Aerodactyl's getting a little bit chipped down. Unfortunately, I no longer have my Papa Berry, but I don't necessarily need that either because he decided to not bring the Mega Pinsir, so not a huge deal at all. As he decides to go into his Empoleon, this is an opportunity for me to go right back into my Seismitoad. I really don't expect him to go straight for a Grass Knot here. If anything, I think he will go straight for a Defog, maybe even a Scald or an Ice Beam. He does opt to just go for the Ice Beam on this turn, and Seismitoad is able to chew that up. Now, in the initial creation of the game, the Seismitoad actually got frozen by that Ice Beam, so I did feel forced in the moment to go for a Scald here. We actually DC'd and had to recreate, so you don't see the freeze, but that explains the Scald play here. Otherwise, I would have 100% gone for Earthquake in that scenario, because there's really no reason not to, and that could have been a really beneficial turn there for me, but, you know, that's Pokemon. That's just how it goes. Is here, he's going to take that free turn to go for a Grass Knot, and then go into his Tapu Koko, expecting me to go into my Celesteela, expecting him to go for either like a Defog or a Grass Knot. So really good play on Emvee's part there. He got me there for sure, as yeah, that's an aggressive play that really works out for him, as now I'm pretty much forced to sack something, since I don't have great Tapu Koko switch-ins, because those really don't exist. So I'm going to go straight into my Seismitoad, and because I am worn down from the Grass Knot, I'm going to be in range of this Nature's Madness into a probable Grass Knot on the next turn, although he actually opts to just go for the Brave Bird, revealing this is a physical Tapu Koko, almost certainly, probably entirely physical. If I had to guess his moveset just from seeing Brave Bird plus Nature's Madness, I am thinking he is Z Nature's Madness, Brave Bird, Wild Charge, U-turn. That is the most likely set he would have if he is physical, so I will keep that in mind as I move forward. Now here, like I mentioned in the team builder, I am not afraid to risk the speed tie, especially because I don't think he's going to be max speed, but I expect him to go into his Gligar here on this turn to get a free pivot through his U-turn, so I can pull a double into my Breloom, expecting that Gligar to come in. He actually decides to stay in and go for the Wild Charge, revealing to me that he is most definitely max speed Tapu Koko, and apparently he is not afraid to risk his Tapu Koko either, so I will definitely keep that in mind. And now, knowing this thing has the Brave Bird, I'm going to go right back into my Aerodactyl, as even though my Aerodactyl takes extra damage here on the Brave Bird, essentially what this is doing is it's wearing down the Tapu Koko into guaranteed range of my Scarf Gardevoir later on, which is fine, honestly. I don't mind taking this route to weaken down the Tapu Koko into guaranteed range, and I believe at this point it is definitely in guaranteed range of my Psyshock or my Moonblast, so that's definitely really good for the late games. I'm really trying to set up that sweep with my Gardevoir, but I really need to get more chip damage off on this Gligar as well as on the Empoleon to be able to have a chance of winning with a Scarfed Moonblast. So here, he goes into his Gligar. Once again, I'm just going to taunt this thing. I don't want this thing to be able to recover. I don't want it to be able to go for rocks or defog or any of that. He knows I'm going to taunt him, though. He's going to go straight for the knockoff, which is fair enough for sure. So I'm going to go straight for the rock slide just to get a little more chip damage off on this thing. I just need this thing weakened. I want this thing weakened so I can knock it out with my Hydreigon and Gardevoir later on. Fortunately, I do get the flinch there, so that's definitely nice, as I'm going to fire off another rock slide because I have no reason not to. I'm just wearing down this Gligar. It's exactly what I need to do in the late game. He decides to go into his Empoleon, which is also awesome because now I get get to potentially wear this thing down further as well. And with that chip damage off on Empoleon, it means it is no longer going to be a check to my Scarf Gardevoir. I'm going to go straight for the Earthquake. It probably will not take out the Empoleon, but it does put him in range of the Moonblast, except I actually just crit the Earthquake instead, so I guess that kind of makes up for the freeze earlier on in the game. So that's okay. So we knock out the Empoleon, that's fine. He's going to go into his Gligar here to check me. My best play is to go for Taunt, but I think he's going to predict that because he's been predicting a lot early in the game, so I'm just going to go straight for the Moonblast to chip him down, let him take me out here with the likely knockoff, as that's exactly what he decides to do, and this means the Gligar is now guaranteed in range of my Hydreigon's Draco Meteor, so I'm going to go straight into my Hydreigon here. I go for the Draco, and he doesn't have a switch, and he can go Hard Cocoa if he wants to, and if he makes that play, that's a pretty good play, but I don't think he can really risk me going for some other type of move in that scenario, as if I was like a Life Orb Hydreigon, I could probably knock out the Tapu Koko with a Flamethrower and the Gligar as well, potentially. Even a Fire Blast, so he does make the best play here and decides to sack off his Gligar, as now he's going to go into his Silvally, which I thought was a very interesting play. I figured he just thought he'd be able to live this hit with his Silvally and try to retaliate with his own Draco Meteor, as I just go straight into my Celesteela. It felt like a pretty safe play overall. Celesteela really isn't needed for much considering what Emvee decided to not bring in this matchup, as he ends up just going for the Defog, which is kind of annoying. With my Stealth Rocker gone, that means that Magmortar in the back is not going to take chip damage, which means that I do need a little bit of more chip damage on that to be able to sweep that thing with Gardevoir as well. So now I have an additional mon I need to get into range. But otherwise, I really like the position that Gardevoir is in at this stage of the game. So I'm going to go for the Leech Seed as he goes for a Flamethrower, and that does literally 0 because Celesteela is ridiculously fat. And now expecting Emvee to go for the Parting Shot with his Silvally. I'm actually going to go for another Leech Seed because regardless of what he goes into, I feel like overall that's a beneficial play for me to make. And if he goes for the Parting Shot, there's really no sense in going for an offensive move because I am an uninvested Celesteela. I'm not going to do much damage to anything he decides to switch in. So I do go for the Leech Seed. I catch the Hoopa coming in, and I'm going to get a little bit of chip damage off on this, which is what I needed for my Gardevoir as well. Hoopa needs a little bit of chip to be in range of Gardevoir's Moonblast, so this will be able to grant me that chip. There's no one move that the Hoopa can go for unless I believe he has Specs T-Bolt that can knock out my Celesteela in one hit from this range. He decides to go for the Hyperspace Fury, and as you can see, that did a frickin' million. That is Adamant Banded Hoopa for sure. And I do manage to tank it though because Celesteela is a god, and I'm going to be able to fire off that Flash Cannon to 100% guarantee that this thing is now in range of my Gardevoir's Moonblast, which is fantastic. It might, after this round of Leech Seed damage, also be in range of my Hydreigon's Draco Meteor, which is also something to keep in mind here moving forward, as that looks to be approximately in range here moving into the late game, and we'll see how that comes into play, as he's going to go for another Hyperspace Fury and take out my Celesteela, which is fair enough. That's a really strong Pokemon whenever it's able to get some free turns like that to do a lot of damage against my team. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my Hydreigon now at this point to basically threaten him out, and I'm just going to go for the Dark Pulse because I know he's not going to stay in, and I really want to hit whatever comes in for a reasonably hard damage. I wasn't really man enough to go straight for like a Flamethrower to maybe hit the incoming Tapu Koko, and it's a good thing I didn't do that because he decides to go into his Silvally instead, and now I won't be forced to go straight for a Draco Meteor. Instead, I could take him out with 2 Dark Pulses and get a crit on that one. That one really doesn't matter. I don't think he would try to preserve that thing anyway in that particular scenario. So down goes the Silvally. Now Emvee decides to go into his Hoopa, and I'm going to risk the roll thinking I have a decent chance of being able to take him out. It's really hard to tell on Wi-Fi, but I'm going to go for it. If I can get this knockout, I think I 100% win this game. Unfortunately, I do not get the roll, but there's still definitely a chance to win this game with my Gardevoir in the end, and he is able to retaliate with an Ice Punch and knock me out. Unfortunately, he didn't go for the fighting move. I was really hoping he would go for that there in that scenario, but he is packing the Ice Punch, so fair enough. So now I'm going to go into my Gardevoir, knowing I can check this thing, and if I can get rid of this thing, then I'm going to be able to have a chance to sweep his team with Scarf Psyshock in the late game, because this is his only Psychic immunity remaining. It'll be much easier to sweep with Psychic coverage if he lets me knock this out, and he does. So now I see an endgame in sight. I might be able to win this game with Gardevoir as he goes into his Magmortar, and this is where things get a little bit crazy, as I'm going to go into my Breloom just in case he wants to go straight for the Fire move or the Sub or whatever. If I get that chip damage off on the Magmortar, it's going to be guaranteed in range of 2 Psychics, and I know my Gardevoir can take any 2 hits from this Magmortar unless he is Belly Drum. is at +6. Okay, so now it comes down to whether or not it has Flame Charge, and then whether or not this thing is actually EV to outspeed my particular Gardevoir set. I'm going to go straight for the Mach Punch. It does a lot of damage. He does have the Flame Charge, so now what it could come down to is just the speed tie. If he is EVing, if he invested in his Magmortar so that it only outspeeds Aerodactyl at +1 speed, this is a speed tie between my Gardevoir and the Magmortar. So this whole battle might just be coming down to a speed tie right here, as I'm going to obviously have to risk it. This is my last Pokemon. If I win this speed tie, I spam Psyshock and win the game. Unfortunately, Magmortar is able to outspeed my Gardevoir, and we are going to fall to the San Diego Chimchargers in the semifinals of the GBA. So great game to Emvee. I thought he played that really well. Just a couple points of reflection there at the end of the game. I know where I messed up. Okay, one being I didn't expect like Belly Drum Magmortar. Like, I guess I should have at least considered it in prep, but I really didn't. Mainly because I haven't played a Magmortar before. Definitely not in draft. I'm not sure if I've even played one like on the ladder because I don't play low tiers. Like I just don't know much about what those mons do. And I did a little bit of research on Magmortar. I kind of expected more of like a special tank type of set, but I should have considered. Like I know Magby runs Belly Drum a little bit in Little Cups, so I should have thought about that in terms of Magmortar as well. But you know, it is what it is. I didn't really think about that. If I did think about like the potential for Belly Drum Magmortar in the back, what I would have probably done, what I should have done, who would have saved the game for me there in the end, is I should have gone into my Gardevoir on the turn where Hoopa knocked out my Hydreigon, as it was very likely that the Hoopa was going to go for either a fighting move, a bug move, which, I mean, bug move is very unlikely, more like a fighting move or an ice move. And in that case, I could have gone hard to Gardevoir. My Gardevoir did have defense investment. I was able to take an Adamant Bandit Ice Punch. And if I did that, then it would put Emvee in a position where he has to either sack a Pokemon to my Gardevoir, or he has to go straight into his Magmortar, and he's not able to win with that Pokemon anymore, which would have, in turn, given my Gardevoir a much better chance of being able to win the games a few turns later. So that would have been the play that would have saved me here in this game, but, you know, the reality is I did not consider Belly Drum Magmortar in my prep at all, really. I fully expected it to be special. If you brought it, maybe Mach Punch for a way to try to pick off the Hydreigon, but I did not expect Belly Drum, and that's why we lost this game, unfortunately. But you know, I thought we played it really well for the most part. Like, I think the early game freeze set me back a little bit. We were able to recover thanks to a critical hit from Aerodactyl, and then the end game just came down to who was able to position themselves better, and in this case, Emvee was able to do that. Unfortunately for us, that resulted in a loss, but that's how it goes. I think the team was good, though. Like, honestly, I felt like prep in this game was even, pretty close to even, I think. I think the team that I built did put me in a position where I could have won the game, really should have won the game if I considered every option, but, you know, sometimes one set can slip your mind. And you know, a set that's as unconventional as Belly Drum is something that can do that for sure. So, you know, it stings a little bit knowing that there was certainly a way that I could have won that game, but you know, in reality, I don't think I don't think I would have made a different play unless I was fully aware that that set was what he brought. You know, it's a very specific play, I think, that you make in that scenario. You have to really anticipate Belly Drum for that to be for the Gardevoir play to be something I make in that specific scenario, because like I said in the team builder, I was not going to risk Gardevoir. Gardevoir was the win condition, and if he went for something, if he made like some really aggressive play and went straight for a Hyperspace Fury, and I went into Gardevoir, then I ought to lost because I could not win in that scenario, I believe, as Tapu Koko would just sweep the rest of my team. Also, kind of kicking myself for not having U-turn on my Hydreigon, as if I had U-turn, knocked out the Hoopa when he tried to check Hydreigon with a Hoopa, then that would have been like a really good position for me too, as I could have just immediately spammed Psyshock with Gardevoir and would have been probably in a position where I couldn't lose. But you know, it is what it is, but unfortunately this will be the end of our season. I want to say good luck to Emvee in the playoffs, or in the finals. I don't know who he plays yet, but good luck to him, of course. I think that'll be a really good game for sure. Obviously, sad we're not going to be in that game, but there's always next season. I do plan to return for the next season of the GBA unless something crazy happens and I don't have time, but most likely I'll be able to make some time for it, so yeah, we'll see. we'll see on that. Not entirely sure exactly when that's slated to start and whatnot. I'm sure you'll find out about that later. But yeah, I just wanted to say a few thank yous before I sign off. Thanks to the front office. You guys have been helpful throughout the season for sure. I know I kind of disappeared there near the end of the season. I was super busy with in real life stuff. But yeah, you guys are really helpful, especially early on in the season and with giving some input here in the playoffs. So thank you to all you guys. They're all linked down in the description below. Make sure to go check them out. Wanted to say thank you to Under the Radar once again. Kind of bailing me out this season with recording my matches for me, as my capture card broke in the middle of the D-League, and I haven't really had the time to get that fixed yet, since I pretty much jumped right into the GBA after the D-League ended, with like a little break around the holidays. But you know, I'll get the capture card fixed here soon, hopefully, so I won't bug you too much more, I promise. But thank you very much for all your help on that this season. Thanks to all the guys who were genning my teams for me. Just to name off a few of them: Pablo gen my team a lot this season, Araptos gen my team a lot, the Common Dude gen my team several times as well. So thank you to all you guys. If I missed anybody, I'm sorry. Thanks to all the guys who helped out with the graphics this season. Thanks to yeah, really all the fans too for all the support that I've seen throughout the season. You guys are awesome. You guys are what makes the GBA great, and yeah, really appreciate all of you. Just for the positivity throughout the season. That's the big thing. I love seeing positivity in the comment section. I love trying to keep like videos positive as well. I don't want videos to be negative. No one wants to watch a super negative video. So I hope you guys have enjoyed that as well, and I really feed off your positivity in the comments as well. And yeah, so I guess that's about all for now. I'll probably do like an overall like recap type of video in a little bit. I might wait until after the finals ends just to make it kind of like a postseason type of thing. But yeah, so I guess that's about it. Make sure to go support whoever you want to. Make sure to go watch the finals. All right, I'm not going to tell you who to support in the finals. Make sure to go watch the finals as well, and watch the other semifinal game too, because I'm sure that one's really good. That's Chimpak versus Gator. You know that's going to be great. But yeah, I think that's about all. So thanks for watching, guys. Thank you once again for all the support this season, and I will see you all next time. Peace.